Hi, I'm Yolanda and this is Speak On. The current theme is gender and society, and today we're learning about a condition that affects 1 in 5,000 women. A condition that can leave some women struggling with gender identity in a world where genitalia and reproductive organs are a defining trait. Welcome, Vix. How are you doing today?
Hi, I'm good. How are you?
I'm good, thank you. I know it's a question that everyone's going to have asked you, and I'm sure it's really boring to answer, but how has the past year been for you?
It's been intense. It's been a bit of a whirlwind. Starting uni in a pandemic has been hard, and then juggling MRKH and coming to terms with that during the same pandemic has been really hard, but I think it's hopefully slowing down and we'll get somewhere soon and make some real progress.
Perfect. So today we're going to be talking about MRKH. So I have a lot of questions because I don't really know much about it. I don't know much about the condition. I follow Vava Womb, and then that is what's kind of introduced me to this. And so I'm going to just ask you a ton of questions that I know our listeners want answered as well. So we'll take it from there. So first of all, can you tell me, what is MRKH?
Yeah, so there are variations from person to person, and there are 2 types of MRKH. So type 1 basically means you're born without a womb or with part of a womb or with uterine remnants, no cervix, and your vaginal canal is a third of the size it should be, in quote marks, because, there's no right or wrong. But so basically so your vagina is split into 3/3, your vaginal canal is, I should say. And 2/3 of it stem from your womb and they go down, and then 1/3 sort of grows from your vagina and goes up. So because we were born without a womb, we don't have the top 2/3. So that's basically one part of MRKH. And then without having the womb means you can't have a baby, or you can, but you can't carry a baby. Mm-hmm. And then type 2 means all of that, which in itself is enough for anyone to have to juggle. And then all of that plus secondary health characteristics. So kidney problems, I only have 1 kidney, for example. I don't have 2. Spinal problems is another thing, so scoliosis is another one that people have. Heart problems, hearing problems, I think they're the main ones. But yeah, so it's all sort of like type 2 is all of the reproductive stuff plus other things. So and I think that's about 40% of people have that out of all MRKHs. But yeah.
Oh wow. And what does the MRKH actually stand for?
So it stands for the 4 founding doctors of the condition. So Meyer, Rokitansky, Kuster, Hauser. So they're the 4 doctors that founded the condition. Yeah.
And how rare is it? Is it something that we should know about because a lot of people have it and they don't talk about it, or is it actually that rare?
It's not. It's 1 in 5,000. So it's not 1 in 5,000 women. So it's not that rare.
Yeah.
But it's often quite taboo because, the parts of the body it affects, and it shouldn't be taboo. But it is, so not enough awareness is there. But also in the medical field, there's not enough awareness at all. Like, for example, I've met about 10 doctors since the whole process, and I think only 3 of them have known what it was.
Wow,
so
okay.
A lot of doctors know what it is, but it's not that rare. Even those are gynecologists, they don't all know about it.
That's insane. Like, when is it diagnosed then? Is it something, because you're saying like a lot of people wouldn't necessarily talk about it or say what it is, but how do they actually work out that you have MRKH?
So the first symptom that is present is you don't have a period. So when everybody starts at 12 to 16-ish, maybe it's around that, but we don't start because we have no uterus lining to shed, so we don't have the period. But so that's the main thing that most girls then go to the doctors and say, I haven't had my period, but I've had everything else. So my breasts have grown, I've got body hair, like everything else develops completely, in quote marks, normally, but the period thing is missing. But I think now, especially with type 2, it can be diagnosed a lot younger.
Okay.
So like a lot of children know about it, and I've had lots of parents contact me saying, I don't know when to tell my kid what she's got this, and she's got heart problems or she's got spinal problems, and I don't know. Like, I've always known that I've had 1 kidney, but I didn't know about MRKH till I was 17. Yeah. Because like they just didn't discover it. But now obviously medical advancements come all the time. So it's being spotted sooner, but most people still, it's teenager, so about 16 to 17 is when most people are diagnosed.
Oh wow. And so how did you find out that you had it then? Because you said you found out when you were 17.
Yeah, so I was 16 and I hadn't started my period. So I went to the GP and she did a bunch of tests. She didn't know what she was doing because it's obviously quite rare. But she then referred me for loads of other tests, and they all came back really sort of like blood tests. They all came back really strange. But it took lots and lots of tests, and eventually I was diagnosed. It took 6 months, I think, from the first appointment to diagnosis. But it had been speculated after about a couple of months. So it was there, but it wasn't there. Like, it wasn't officially diagnosed until the July, but I'd sort of thought maybe it might be me from about May time-ish. But yeah.
Okay, and then so what kind of tests did they actually do to diagnose it, and which one is the final one where they're like, okay, this is definitely it?
Yeah, so a lot of people are bounced from doctor to doctor because they don't know what's going on, and I was one of those people. So I've seen, in just getting diagnosed, I've seen a GP, I've seen 3 nurses, a gynecologist, a hormone specialist, and then, radiographers because I had scans. But so I had blood tests, and they all came back completely all over the place, but that was not because of MRKH, but like they all came back really, and they were like, oh, we need to do more scans. I had an ultrasound scan, and I was told no womb, no ovaries, which wasn't true, but that's what I was told. Because in an ultrasound, they basically find your womb first and then go out towards the ovaries. And because they couldn't find the womb,
they didn't bother expand it.
And so they just speculated as in,
That's insane. So they were just like, there's nothing in this spot here. So even though we don't know what's wrong with her, let's not expand it. Let's just work around this bit. That's so insane. So basically, if they would have just expanded it at that point, they would have found out straight away.
That I had fully functioning ovaries, But those nurses, they didn't know what it was, obviously. And then, so we then went with private health insurance, and I met my gynecologist, who I think she had only had one patient before me, and that was 10 years prior, who was an MRKHer. So she then ordered more blood tests and an MRI, and that was the defining test, was the MRI. So she looked at my pelvis, she looked at my brain, because my hormones were all over the place. But that was basically because I was so stressed about all the tests that my hormones were so up and down. And they thought, oh my God, you've got a brain tumour because your hormones are so high. And then they were like, no, you were just stressed. It's okay.
Oh my gosh. Yeah.
And then, so then I had the MRI on my pelvis and on my brain. And then a couple of weeks later, they were like, this is MRKH. That was, I think that is often the defining test. But because I was on private insurance, it was a lot quicker than it was for a lot of other people. So I got lucky, but I know for people it can take a lot longer to get that to happen.
Oh, wow. I mean, my gosh, that sounds like such an ordeal at that point, especially if your hormone levels are showing how stressed you are. I can only imagine how stressed you are.
Yeah.
Like, what was that like for your parents as well? They must have been so worried.
Yeah. So my first appointment, I didn't even take my mum. So with the GP, because I was convinced they'd just say, wait a while because you're quite small, you know, you're tiny, like it'll be fine, like they'll come in time. So my mum wasn't even there for the first one, and then they got all the tests, and I was like, oh, I need my mum, like, because you do get scared, and it is a massive upheaval because your life is changing. But I think my mum struggled. We don't really talk about it though. Like, we don't talk about it in that sense. We talk about it in a good way, as in I said, Mum, this is my plans, this is my future plans, this is what I want to do. But I wouldn't say, like, I wouldn't be sad about it in front of her, because I know it's hard for her too, because I'm her baby, and you know, she doesn't want to see her kid obviously have all these like health issues. And my dad, we don't talk about it, but then again, he's my dad and he's a man, so it's maybe not the easiest thing to broach with your dad. And I've got a sister as well, and we don't talk about it either because she's 16, so it's all a bit weird for her. But my parents, I think they struggled at the start, but now we've sort of just learnt that it's who I am and it's a part of me and it's not going away, and we've just dealt with it. And when I have appointments, when I have treatment appointments and things, it's not like they're involved, but now I'm 19, it's ultimately my decision, and they're very respectful of the fact that it is my decision, and that if I want to have treatment, I will when I want to, and if I don't, then I won't. Like, they're very like wary of my boundaries around it now, and I think we've just grown with the diagnosis more than anything else.
When you were diagnosed, how did the doctors explain it to you, and what was your reaction? What was your initial reaction?
Oh, that's a hard one. I was sat in there with my gynecologist, and she basically said, "Yep, you were right. It's MRKH type 2," and that was kind of it. And she said, "You need surgery," and I was like, "Oh, that's a big deal." Like, and I was scared. I was petrified. I don't like the idea of surgery, and especially on around that part of my body, you think, "Oh my God, this is massive." But so she sort of said, "Yeah, you've got MRKH. We're referring you to this doctor, for like specialist treatment." And then we basically were called by the insurance company, and they said, "You're not covered anymore privately. Okay. We can't support you anymore because you were born with it. You haven't developed it. So you're not covered by insurance because it's congenital," which sucked.
Yeah.
But so I had to then be discharged by my team, who were actually really nice. Sent back to my GP, who called me and said, "You're having plastic surgery at the Royal London. You're going on this day for an appointment."
Okay.
And I was like, "Whoa!" That was
so no more
really
talk
intense.
than that. That's so much to say to someone without any explanation.
It was very definitive. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it turns out I didn't need surgery, so it was fine. But I think and I was 17, so that speculation of you need surgery if you're gonna be out of school, that was tough. That was the toughest thing, was surgery.
Yeah.
I think the other stuff it takes time to come to terms with, but because the thought of surgery was so imminent, it's then that was all that we were thinking about. And especially me and my school, my teachers were so supportive, and they were like, "Oh my God, this is massive."
Yeah.
But they didn't know what to say either, because it's so new and different for all of us. But yeah, I think it's such a weird one, because we didn't know how to react. Because from being told you might have a brain tumour to being told you can have a baby but you can't carry it, it was actually good news. So we almost celebrated it rather than grieved it at the start.
Yeah.
Because we thought it was going to be worse than what it was. But then after a while you realise, hold on, this is actually
still a big deal.
It's not easy. It's still really hard.
And then when it came to them saying you needed surgery, did they what did they want you to have surgery on, or what were they suggesting? Why were they suggesting you have surgery?
So how I said that my vagina is only a third of the size it, in quote marks, should be.
Yeah.
The surgery was to essentially build the other 2/3.
Okay.
1/3, sorry. It was only 1/3 it should be, and they want to build the other 2/3. So basically, they would essentially stretch it for you. They'd put you under anaesthetic, and they just get the muscle and just stretch it.
Yeah.
Which sounds painful, right?
It sounds incredibly painful, yeah.
Yeah. And that's not the treatment option anymore. A lot of people don't do that anymore.
Okay.
My hospital that I'm with now, they don't perform the surgery at all. They've been doing what they've been doing for over 10 years, and they've never once done the surgery.
Oh, wow. Yeah.
So treatment for them, it's called dilation. So my nurse calls it the Russian dolls of dildos, basically. So the dilators start off really, really small, the size of what you've already got. And then you kind of put them in, and you sit with them in for 20 minutes twice a day or 3 times a day, whatever you feel comfortable doing. And that will stretch the muscle for you.
Oh,
so
okay.
Then it's not a surgeon doing it, because if a surgeon were to do it, you'd have to dilate afterwards anyway.
Yeah.
So they'd stretch it, and then
oh my gosh, and then it would just be twice it's like doing everything twice. Oh my god.
Exactly. Yeah. So you'd have to dilate, because the scar tissue that you'd have to dilate less than you would if you were to do it straight off the bat. But there'd be scar tissue there, and you'd have to stop that from sort of congealing and building. So you'd have to then use a dilator to keep the muscles and to maintain it. So say if you dilate and you get your canal to the size you want it to be, you'd have to then maintain it and keep going, because it would just shrink again.
Yeah.
So it's, once you decide to commit to it, it's 6 months roughly to achieve the size that you would want, in quote marks. But you have to keep doing it if you're not seeing anyone, because sex can maintain that.
Yeah.
But if you're not having sex with people, the muscle will just shrink again.
Okay. Yeah. Muscle memory, I guess, eh?
Yeah.
So when you talked before about people with MRKH, they're able to have children. So I mean, like you were saying, that must have been a relief. Not saying that you would have made your decision at that point, because not everyone wants children. They don't know that when they're a teenager. But what kind of, I suppose, would you have to go down the surrogacy route? Is that what the doctors explained to you? Okay.
They didn't really explain it much, because, they sort of said, all we know is that you can't carry. Okay. So I could have a baby that is biologically mine, but somebody else would have to carry the baby.
Yeah.
So my eggs, I have 2 fully functioning ovaries, which is, that was a relief to hear because we were told that I didn't have any. So that was a good thing to hear that, you have 2 and they both work perfectly, so you're fine.
Yeah.
But so I could have a surrogate or I could obviously adopt, which is always an option. But for me, obviously I'm still young, so it's not decided for definite, but my gut is saying I want surrogacy. That's what I can see myself doing now. But at the start it was, no, I'll just adopt.
Yeah.
Because, it's traumatic and finding a surrogate is really hard.
Oh my God, so difficult in the UK. One of my friends is going through it at the moment. She's going to have to go abroad, but she couldn't because of coronavirus. So now she's going to try abroad because I know other people that, and it's just, this country, the laws on it are really archaic and it's just a mess here. But yeah, at least other countries have got their shit together on it. Yeah. Okay, well, that's good that that's an option and then something you may explore when you're older. So you're saying you had to, essentially they were saying, we're going to have to send you into surgery to, I suppose, create or expand your vagina or whatever. Is everyone born with that same need or condition, or are some people kind of good to go?
No, it depends on the length you already have.
Yeah.
So it does vary, but it depends on the person, but also it depends on their wants and their needs.
Yeah.
So obviously sex isn't just penetration. So if you don't want to do that, then you don't have to do anything at all, treatment-wise. You just don't have to because you don't have any need to.
Yeah.
So there's no point in putting yourself through 6 months to a year of grief if you don't, dilating and that being traumatic and stressful if you don't want to have sex anyway. But a lot of people don't dilate. They dilate through sex. So they don't use the dilators. They just, they have a partner who is understanding and who is aware that you've got to take it slowly, and they'll essentially stretch it. Yeah. So it's, that's way more pleasurable than having to do it with dilators in a hospital room. Yeah. But I think, it very much depends on the person and what they want. So some people will dilate when they're 16 as soon as they find out. I'm 19, I've known for 2 years. I haven't dilated yet because it's not something I want to do or feel ready to do at the moment. But I know at the time if I want to do it, I can just send a message to my nurse and say, hey, I want to start dilation, and she'd book me in. Yeah. So it's very much take it at your own pace. You can do it if you want to, but you don't have to. And you don't have to do it at all if you don't want to. Some people wait, some people just don't do it at all because you don't always need to or want to. But yeah. Yeah.
Okay. Interesting. So people with MRKH can have a satisfying sex life. It doesn't change anything for them.
Absolutely. Again, it's like I said, it's not always about penetration. Sex is so much more than that. And there's so much more that can happen to get you aroused or to get you, in that mood. It doesn't have to be through having sex if you haven't dilated or you've chosen not to. A lot, one of my friends, Ella May, who runs Other Womb, she posts a lot about this. Having sex is something that you can choose to do or not choose to do, and it's totally your prerogative. But there's so much more to sex than just penetration. Yeah. So, but even then, if you wanted to do penetrative sex, you could, and it would still be, then it would be as fulfilling as it would be for anyone else. Yeah. It's totally, our sex lives are just like anybody else. They're no different. I think that's quite important because people think, oh, you can't have sex. And it's no, that's not true. I can have sex. Yeah. But it's maybe in a different way or maybe in the conventional way, but it's whatever you do to make yourself feel aroused or for your partner to make you feel aroused. It's your choice. I think it's totally something that you need to do at your own pace. And sex is, your sex life is your sex life. Yeah. And, you do what you need to do to make yourself feel fulfilled in that sense. Do you know what I mean? It doesn't have to be penetrative. It doesn't have to be, you can pleasure yourself. You can have someone else pleasure you. It's so, I think it's as fulfilling as it would be to anyone else. Yeah. I
think it's because sometimes we think in such a binary way when it comes to sex, don't we?
Yeah.
And we think of it in such a heteronormative way, and we think about, and it's so reductive the way we think about it. So it's, really, it's anything. It's
absolutely.
It's on a spectrum, isn't it? And it's all the experiences. So when you were diagnosed, how did that impact your mental health? You mentioned before, there was some relief because you're okay, thank God I don't have a brain tumour. Oh, thank God I have working ovaries. But what happened to you after that as you came to accept it?
That was a journey and a half, and I think every MRKHer is still on that journey. I think, you know, no matter how old you are. Mentally, it was tough. And it still is tough at times. I'm not going to sit here and say my life is perfect, because it's not, or that mentally I'm perfectly fine when sometimes I'm not, and we always have down days, and that's a thing. I think at first I went into school because my teachers were very much my support network at the time, because they were sort of a bit more distant than my parents, so it didn't feel like I was, you know, worrying them. And I said to them, oh, this is the news, and one of them, she just looked at me, and I just started crying.
Oh.
And, you know, and then she started crying because she felt bad for me, because she was like, I know how much you want to be a mum. And she was like, Vix, you're so maternal. And I've got this motherly instinct, and I was 17 at the time.
Yeah.
But I think it's a big thing, and it's a journey. But mentally, what I did the first day after I was diagnosed, I think we were at a party, actually, ironically, and we were celebrating somebody else, but it kind of came into me drinking a little bit, and we all sort of just joked it off, and we, you know, I couldn't take it seriously because I didn't really want to. A lot of people go into denial for a while, and I did, only for that night, and then afterwards I was like, right, okay. Next day, I picked up my phone and I Googled it, and I think I searched on Instagram, and Ella May's account was the first one that I came across.
Yeah.
And I messaged her and I said, hi, I've just been diagnosed. I don't know what I'm doing. And we spoke about it a bit, and she said, whoa, you don't need surgery. That's not what we do. That's not the treatment. So straight away she was like, nipped it in the bud and was like, no, you don't need plastic surgery. That's not how, you know, we do things. And after a while, I started to grow my community search, and I found more people, and I found Ella May shared a post of someone on her Instagram, Gemma, who is now one of my closest friends. And she, you know, she lives in Australia, which is, you know, not close to here at all, but we've just become like a little family. I think a lot of us have sort of become quite close-knit, and that's very much been my sense of stability the whole way through, is to find people who get it, and then to talk it through with them. So like with me, with Gemma, I messaged her, I was like, I'm really confused with what I'm supposed to be feeling, and I don't know what to do. And she was like, oh my God, hi. And we spoke for ages, and now nearly 2 years later, we are so close. And I think that for me was the biggest thing that helped me mentally, was to find people like me. Like now I have girls reach out to me all the time because I advocate now. So I have girls message me all the time and say, hi, I've just been diagnosed. I don't know what to do, what to feel, what to say, how to cope. And I'm like, okay, you know, let's take this together, slow down. One of my best friends, reached out to me and said, I've just been diagnosed. And we started messaging, and now we don't even talk about it anymore. We're just best friends. Yeah. Like, we are so close. And I think that for me gives me this reason to sort of carry on fighting, to carry on advocating, to know that life with MRKH, it's not over. It's just a different life. Because now all the friends that I have, the advocacy role that I play, I'm a writer, I do things like this, I like all this sort of stuff. I think that for me is my purpose for MRKH, and that is why I'm sitting here saying your life isn't over. It feels like it is, and it did feel like it was at the time. And I remember thinking, oh my God, I'm never going to be happy again. Like I can't be a mum. I can't. And now I'm thinking, no, I can be. It's just a different way, and we'll get there. But I think finding comfort in people around you who understand what you're going through is so important, because it feels isolating. And I think that first day I went into school and I told my teachers and a couple of my friends, and they didn't know what to say. Like, they were genuinely speechless. And I've had bad reactions to it as well. People, you know, not accept me for who I am, and that's, you know, that happens. But
in what way? In what way? And who are they? And can I go and fight them? No, but in what way?
Actually, so my head of year at school, she found out eventually. She sat me down and she said, if you need surgery, don't have it clash with your exams, please. That's, you know, exams are more important. And I was like,
my God, what sociopath? What sorry, I don't even know this person.
I know. She's also called me a burden before. She said I was a burden on other staff members for talking to them about it. So that was really hard. And the label of being a burden is something that I then internalised. And then I had this massive fear of asking for help. But then obviously I had the girls in the community who were like, what, there's something wrong. There is something massively wrong. And they were there and they picked me up. But like having someone sit there and say,
oh my God,
you are a burden was
what the hell
tough.
did your parents say? If someone would have, one of my teachers did that to me, my parents would have burnt the school down. I don't think they don't, my parents don't have rational reactions to those things. What the hell?
I asked them not to get involved
Yeah.
because I was like, I don't want to start a fuss. I don't want everyone knowing my business.
Yeah,
I didn't want to drag the whole,
Yeah.
because once you tell one teacher, it will get back to safeguarding, and it kind of did, and it was a massive thing. And,
oh
so
my God.
by the end of school, everyone knew anyway, so I wasn't that bothered. But
oh my God, she
by
should
then,
lose
I
her
could sort of
job.
own
That
it.
is insane. I'm sorry, it's like, I know it happened to you a while ago, but I am fully livid. Like, as you said that, I am. No one can see me or see how wide my mouth and jaw was there. I'm so sorry that happened to you. Like,
No, I mean, it's fine. It's
insane.
It was horrible at the time, and then I went crying to one of the other teachers, and I was like, she said this about me, and she was like, what?
Yeah.
And she was like, well, we don't think that, so she shouldn't have said that because we don't even think that about you, so don't even worry about it.
That
like
hell is wrong with
that
people?
was hard.
Yeah. Some people don't know how to deal with these things, do they? Oh my God,
No.
that is. I remember actually once
that's the thing that's I mean is it was so taboo.
That's
and
awful.
For me to sit there and say, I can't have a baby, or that's what I thought at the time.
Yeah.
Or I'm going through all these tests and I'm scared, stiff. Like
Jesus.
my grades were obviously going down because I was,
stressed.
And they were like, no, get your grades back up. And I was like, right, okay, sure, yeah. But yeah, that was tough. But now I look back and I think that wasn't my fault.
No,
that wasn't
none
the
of
condition.
that was your fault.
Like, and I've had friends walk away from me because it's been too much for them to handle. I had a friend message me and say, sorry, Vix, but it's too much. You need to find someone else to confide in.
What?
Like, yeah, I've had a few bad reactions. I've been called half woman, not a real woman. Like, oh, yeah, it's
oh
all
my
happened.
God. Okay, right. So when this is finished, what you're going to do is you're going to give me a list of names. And I'm going to go and ruin all these people's lives.
No, it was years ago now, but it
doesn't matter, they're all trash.
Yeah, I know, But I think, the more you have to face it, we're going to face adversity, and that sucks.
True.
It's a taboo condition, and it's one that's not spoken about enough, which is probably why you get bad reactions, is because nobody knows about it.
This is so wild. I don't understand what reaction to have. It's not happening to you. Just fucking mind your business and shut your mouth. But sorry to swear, but it's like that.
Yeah.
And people,
but then again, I've had some amazing reactions. I've had people cry in front of me over it.
Yeah.
Like, I remember, I think I told one of my mum's friends, I messaged her and said, can we meet up? I need to tell you something, because I was not going to tell someone by text.
Yeah.
No way. We met up and I said, I can't have children, I haven't got a womb. And I couldn't look at her because I just had a hunch she'd react, she'd struggle. I had a hold of her hand, I looked up at her and tears streaming down her face. And I was like, no, don't cry, because I was like, I'm okay.
Yeah.
I am okay, honestly. And she was like, no, you're not. Like, I was like, I'm fine, I've got this, it's cool. And, I wasn't fine. But I think, especially when people, it's them coming to terms with it as much as you are.
Yeah.
People who love you especially, it's a journey for them to understand that I'm the same version of me I always was, but I'm also not.
Yeah.
Like, I've always been this way, I was born this way, so in that sense, I haven't changed. It's just a label that's come onto it.
Yeah. And I suppose they're upset because they love you so much. They just don't want your life to be negatively impacted by a single thing for your entire existence. Yeah.
Yeah. So now I sit and I hear and I'm advocating and I'm doing all this stuff. That's reassurance for them that I'm okay.
That's good.
And I think for me to then say, I've written a blog, I've done this, I've done that, I've launched a new initiative, a new page, like I'm running workshops or planning on workshops, and I've co-hosted things. That's them being like, she's safe, she's happy, we don't have to stress out about her.
Yeah.
And I think that's the thing, is that, like, especially family and people who are very, very close to you, they worry. They think, oh my God, is she going to be able to cope? Can she take this? But it's like, yep. Yeah. I haven't got a choice. I haven't got I can't sit there and hide away for the rest of my life, because there's no point. Like, you get up and you fight it. Like, I can't change the condition, but I can change the way that I feel about it and the way I live with it. Yeah.
Wow, I mean, my gosh, you're only 19. That is a hell of a lot to go through, and I commend
Yeah.
you for going through it like you have in that way. And my goodness, and like, do you have like therapy or anything as part of this process?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I have a psychologist in London. The specialist centre in the UK is Queen Charlotte and Chelsea Hospital.
Yeah.
And they have a consultant, a nurse, a psychologist, and I think a radiographer as well.
Mm-hmm.
And the psychologist is the one who I see the most regularly. She is lovely.
Mm-hmm.
She's so nice. I started seeing her on and off. It's been on and off since September. I've been seeing her.
Mm-hmm.
So you go up and down and you see her, and then you refer back into her and you say, hey, Michelle, I need help again.
Mm-hmm.
Can I talk to you? And she'll call and she'll check in. And I think that was a massive thing for me. I think having someone who it's their job to listen to you talk,
Mm-hmm.
that was quite nice, because again, like, I had this fear of being a burden, which sucked.
Yeah.
But that was a fear that I have, and I always carry it to an extent. But she literally, I said to her once, I don't want to worry you. And she goes, Vix, it's my job.
Yeah.
Like, it's literally my job to sit here and help you through this.
Yeah.
And the other day she said to me, she looks at me and she goes, you can do this. She goes, you're a fighter, and I'm going to help you, and I'm going to do this with you, and I'm here, and you call me if you need to talk to me, and blah, blah, blah. And I think stuff like that, like, it's so nice to hear, because the girls in the community, I love them to pieces, and I would never, like, I'm so close with them, but I would never want to worry them. Like, you don't, because to an extent, I've only known them for a couple of years, as close as we are, and we are so close. There's this thing of texting them saying, I'm really struggling, I need help. They would then switch on this worry and be like, oh my God, are you okay?
Yeah.
And they would try to be calm, and they do, and they are amazing, and a lot of the girls have sat with me whilst I've just been lying there crying.
Yeah.
Like, and sometimes just having someone there is all you need. But I think, yeah, it's such a big thing, like, with the girls, I've been lying in bed, and one of the girls has called me, and I've just sat there just lying there. We've just been lying there together. And it's been so nice, actually, to just sit there and be like, I'm not on my own. I'm in this room on my own.
Yeah.
There's someone on FaceTime right next to me. I'm fine.
Yeah.
Like, that was such a big thing.
Yeah. And I suppose that's kind of the glorious thing about social media. There are loads of different sides to it. It's a double-edged sword a lot of the time. But that's the best part about it is you can find your people. And then you've been able to build this network. And if you didn't have this way of reaching out across all the, like, to Australia and all these different places, you wouldn't be able to build this network and these friends, and those negative experiences you would have had would have actually been more difficult. But I suppose this is the thing, isn't it? When things happen that negatively impact people, and it could be like grief or anything else, it separates the wheat from the chaff in terms of people. I like had the same thing, like what you mentioned a few times there about different incidents, and I was sitting here kind of like mouth wide open, but I was like, oh, actually that occurs in lots of different scenarios. I had a thing with like lots of like listeners know, like I had like lots of grief in a really short period of time, and in that time I lost friends and people said insensitive things to me, and it's because they don't know how to deal with it. Also, they're sociopaths, but they don't know how to deal with it. And so then they just say, stuff just comes out of their mouth, and they just don't, and they just do and say ridiculous things that I think that in time they will regret, because they're just reacting. So yeah, I'm glad it hasn't stayed with you in that sense. I mean, you talking about being a burden, like, breaks my heart, because it's like, no, your friends and family are never going to stop worrying about you. They always are, because they want the best for you. But you should, a problem shared is really a problem halved, even if you are just sitting there. So I hope that, I think as well, as we get older, we understand that more, as our friendship groups like shift and change and expand and contract and everything. So I hope that thinking you're ever a burden magically leaves you at one point, because you're not. And I think it's a good thing to really start almost like saying to yourself like a mantra, because then if you start thinking it, then you start internalizing those things, and you'll start, don't carry too much stress by yourself.
Absolutely. Yeah.
It's insane. Like I was speaking recently to another guest who, Amy Thompson, she's written a book about hormones and about the hormonal system, and the reason she wrote it is because she had complete hormonal failure, and that's because she was stressing and kept all her stress to herself. So it's always good to know to, I don't know, speak about it and always share, so you don't end up doing anything doing anything else to your body. I've had that as well in the past with lots of grief. I had insomnia and all sorts of things because I didn't tell anyone, I didn't speak to anyone, and I didn't burden anyone, in air quotes.
Yeah.
And then as soon as I did, I felt better. And it was, so it's a good thing to remember. So, I mean, you talked a bit about how it's impacted your life. You know, now you're an advocate and you've made all these amazing friends and you are really like a huge voice for the community. What other ways has it impacted your life? And do you have any future plans with, like, I don't know, has it shifted any of your future plans outside of childbearing, etc., in your life?
I mean, it's definitely changed my life, for good and for bad, which is something that I live by, is that it is really horrible, but I do have good things as well. Like the friends that I've made, I now look back and I think, how did I ever live the first 17 years of my life without you?
Yeah. Oh, I love that.
You know,
yeah.
Like I can't, you know, one of my friends, she fostered a little boy and he calls me Auntie Vix.
Aww.
So if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be an auntie. Like, if it wasn't for MRKH, I wouldn't have that. And I think it's such a big thing. Like, I think, like, there are good things about it as well. Like, people say it's horrible, and it's heartbreaking, and it is, and there's no two ways around that. But the good reasons gave me a voice. Like, it gave me the chance to launch new advocacy projects, and I meet new people every day. I'm contacted by journalists saying, can we write about you? Like, I mean, I haven't accepted any offers yet because you've got to find the right person because it's so sensitive. But I think I've always had this plan to move to Australia. Always. It's always been the plan since I was a kid. And I've got family there. But I think since MRKH, the pull has just got even bigger. Yeah. Because I have friends there and my family is still there. And even medically, they're giving the go-ahead for uterus transplants, which we're not doing in England yet. Yeah. So if I'm really thinking, logically, that's probably the best place for me. But it's always been the dream to move over there, but the pull is just getting even stronger. The more friends I make that are there, even if it's by coincidence. Like, it just happens. But I think it's changed my life. I'm such a different person than I was 6 months ago. Yeah. Like, I was diagnosed 2 years ago, and I sort of, I guess, blocked it out because I had to focus on applying to uni, and I had mocks, and then I think I had a mock that came up and it was really triggering because the question was about pregnancy. Yeah. And I was like, oh my God, this is really intense. But, MRKH has changed my life. I think that, like, there is no, I'm not going to die. Yeah. And that's, a lot of people say that, and like, well, you're not going to die, are you? Like, when the thought of surgery, where my teacher was like, that's why I put your exams first, because you don't need the surgery. Like, and I was like, okay, like, whatever. Like, whatever, float your boat. Yeah. But, it's changed me because I almost carry it around with me. And the more I advocate, the more of my life it sort of seeps in on. Like, it seeped in on my uni life. I wrote an essay, not about it, but kind of about it. Like, I study English. And there's always going to be stuff about fertility that comes up, pregnancy, abortions, miscarriages, surrogacy, adoption, whatever. Like, motherhood. It's all that sort of stuff can be so triggering. But I chose English because English also gave me so much comfort when I was diagnosed. Yeah. To stick your head in a book and not think about it. Like, that was the biggest relief I think I got. And that year, when I was diagnosed, I read more than I've ever read before. Oh, wow. Because I just needed to escape. Or I write now. I never imagined myself writing. Like, I write poetry. I haven't shared any. I've shared a couple of bits publicly, but not much. I think I wouldn't have found that if it wasn't for MRKH. Yeah. Like, it's shaped me academically as well as physically and mentally. Like, and the more I advocate, the more it takes over because it's more of your life. I have girls message me all the time in complete crisis of, I want to kill myself, I want to self-harm, or I've just self-harmed, it won't stop bleeding, or I've just drunk myself stupid, and I'm having to say, are you safe, are you okay? But that happens like a couple of times a week. I'm having to deal with people in crisis. Yeah. And advocating is hard and it takes its toll in that sense. But also, I would never not do it because I know I'm making a difference. So the purpose, like, MRKH takes away, or it can take away the purpose of being a mum. And for a time I thought I can never be a mum. It's never going to happen. And then I started advocating and I started almost being a big sister to the girls that needed me to be that figure for them. Just like the girls that were for me, I'm now for them. I'm like the next generation of advocate. And there's a few of us that are sort of coming into our own and growing as advocates, and we're kind of the next generation that we're growing. But it's having to deal with people in crisis is so hard. because you're thinking if something happens to them, it's your fault, which it's not.
It's not,
but you think it. Yeah. You do think it. If someone, you get a text saying, oh, that person, we've lost them, or they're in hospital, you think, oh my God, I should have done more. Mm-hmm. I should have called them. I should have gone over there. I should have done this, done that. And that's huge to have to carry that weight around, as well as the diagnosis. So you've got that, you've got crisis, you've got the motherhood thing, the dilation thing, especially because I haven't dilated yet. The thought of I need to or I should is always there, even though it's not true. Mm-hmm. It's massive. I think, and also it shapes my friendships here as well at uni. Like, it's almost like it's like a big secret you've got to then disclose to people.
Yeah.
Which it's not, but that's how it feels. I don't know if it's just me or a lot of people feel it, but you feel like you're obliged to tell people. You feel like you have to because it's a part of you. And especially for me, because I do so much around it and I advocate and I write and I base my degree off it. Like, because it is a big part of my life, I almost feel like I have to tell people. I have to disclose it. And telling my uni friends was so hard because I didn't want to lose them.
Yeah.
And I think I lied to one of my friends about it, and I said, oh, I take this for my periods, that they'll help you too, which I obviously didn't because I don't have periods. I told her and she goes, why did you lie? Yeah. Why did you lie?
Yeah.
And I was like, I didn't want you to think differently of me. And we just met. I didn't want to put stuff on you. And she was like, you are so stupid. Like, she's like, you should have told me. I don't care. Yeah. Like, she's like, I care because I love you, but I don't think any differently of you because of it. Like, I don't. And some of my friends, we spoke about it and I told them and they were like, that's massive. Are you okay? I was like, what? Yeah. Like, I didn't even think they'd be thinking about me. I thought they'd just be taking it in. And I think that's such a thing that I've learned from my experiences is that disclosure is massive and you've got to sort of find your script for it.
Yeah.
Like, I know what to say now because I've done it so many times. And some girls even, they found my online page before I'd had the chance to tell them. Mm-hmm. So they were like, you could have said, you didn't have to wait for us to find it. Like, you could have literally told us. But yeah, MRKH, I'm always going to carry it with me and, it's not going anywhere. It's not, you can't cure it, but, you live with it. Yeah. It doesn't live, do you know what I mean? It doesn't consume, or it shouldn't consume you. It shouldn't be all of you. Mm-hmm. But I think you learn to live with it and you learn to understand it, accept it, and eventually, I guess, kind of love it.
Yeah. Oh, I love that. I thought I was going to start crying through some of that. I was like, oh, you're so awesome. I love that. And I think the message I got from that is that it's for you, like, kind of being an advocate for MRKH is very much a part of your identity, but RK, can't get the words out now. Because you're right, it's because I almost cried. Calm down. So, but MRKH isn't your identity. It's part of you without being all of you. And I am so glad that you went to university and you met these amazing people who are, frankly, normal adults that you should meet, who are just going to be like, oh my God, are you okay? Because that's all your friends, that's all proper friends care about. It's not about the impact on them. There is, frankly, no impact on anyone else. The impact is on you. And if anyone else internalizes that or centralizes themselves in it, basically they're a bell end. Is the quickest way to say that and easiest way to say that. But I'm so glad that you've met so many like amazing people at uni, which is also the best bit about uni is, again, more ways to find your people and really kind of like, I don't suppose, grow your life with them as well. So, I mean, do you think you'll write a book? Or do you think you'll publish something?
I'd like to. Yeah. I would definitely like to. What about my experiences in my life?
Well, about anything, because I'm thinking just the way you were talking, everything else, just like, I wrote some poetry, but I haven't. I'm like, I feel like there's some books in here, Vix, like about
probably.
Everything. Yeah.
I mean, I'd definitely like to.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a big thing, and my career path is I want to teach, but I think it could happen and I would like it to happen. Yeah. And again, like, that's a good thing of MRKH is I've developed myself as a writer. I never thought I'd sit here and write poetry. In school, I hated poetry. Mm-hmm. There's one writer like Sylvia Plath. She had miscarriages and, she lost babies and she wrote about it and she was very mentally unwell for a very long time. Yeah. And reading her work and I think, wow, like, I can feel her pain, like, coming, and whilst I still talk to some of my teachers from school, a couple of them I'm still in touch with, and one of them, she reads all my writing before I post anything, my poetry as well. I'll send it to her and be like, is it okay? Mm-hmm. And we'll fine tune it and perfect it. Yeah. And there was one, and she was like, that made me cry. I was like, oh, sorry. Oops. And she was like, no, Vix, that's good. That's a good thing.
Exactly. You're stirring emotion. That's art.
Yeah.
That is.
Yeah, it's massive. And, you know, MRKH developed me as a writer, and I'm always going to be grateful for that. But also it's given me some of my darkest times. When I first moved here, there was a phase where I didn't tell anyone. Like, none of my tutors knew, none of my friends knew, and I was like, I'm so isolated. I feel really alone. And because it is scary, because everyone at home knew. Because between me and my mum, we told everyone. Because it's just our way of coping was to talk about it. But here I was like, I don't want to tell people because I want to create a new life for myself that isn't based around it. But it came out after about a month or so. Because I was like, I'm not going to lie, I'm struggling. I need someone to know because I don't feel okay. Like, it's hard. I feel really alone. And, you know, as much as the girls, the MRKH girls would sit on the phone to me, it wasn't the same. Yeah. It wasn't the same as them, you know, being there. And I've met them a few times, and it's so different. Like, being on the phone is great, but sometimes you just need a hug from the right person.
You need contact. You need human contact sometimes, don't you? Yeah.
Yeah.
Oh, I mean,
so telling the girls was huge. But now they know. One of my guy friends knows that was weird. Yeah. But, you know, he knows, and it's people, you know, like it or lump it, I guess. Yeah, exactly. Like, if you're not accepting of it, that's not my fault anymore. Like, I used to think it was, and it was a reflection on me as a person, but I'm not choosing this. No. I'm not choosing MRKH. Like, I was given it by someone, somewhere, and it develops in the first 8 weeks of pregnancy. So by the 8-week mark of my mum being pregnant with me, it was there. Yeah. So it's literally always been me. It's not, it didn't even develop in the last month of pregnancy or whatever. It developed very early on. So I know that even though I was given the label of MRKH, it was always there. Yeah. Like, before it was there, it was there. Do you know what I mean? And so that makes me feel better about it, because I'm like, well, it's a label, and labels are not nice. Like, labels are a horrible thing. Because you feel like they are you. You feel like you walk around and it's like above your head, and that you can just see it everywhere, but you can't. Yeah. It's invisible. I mean, externally to a, like, you know, say if I was in a relationship with a guy, if he was looking at my body, I would look, in quote marks, normal. Yeah. Because externally I look like any other woman. And because I am a woman, like, there's no two ways about it of people saying you're not a real woman, you're a half woman, blah, blah, blah. It's not true. Like, it's simply not true. Like, and it's taken me forever to come to terms with that. To be like, no, I am a woman. I am 100% fully functional ovaries, XX chromosomes. I am a woman, and nobody can take that away from me. But, like, people try and take it from you. Yeah. And that's their loss, not mine. Like, that's not my fault. It's like, that's you. Yeah. How did it affect your gender identity then? Because it's a weird thing, isn't it? I feel like like at the moment, the series is all about gender in society, because there is, people really struggle with it, which is wild, because gender is our own and it doesn't impact anyone else. But yet everyone really feels, because we have all these gender norms and stereotypes and everything else, people really feel the need to enforce it on others. So what did that do? What did that do to you? Was there a struggle? Yes and no. I think in my heart I always knew that I was a woman. Like, that never changed. I never thought, I mean, I did think, oh my God, am I a boy? But then I think I spoke to, one of my teachers about it, and I said, am I a boy? And she was like, no. No way. She was like, you're feeling insecure, and that's okay to feel insecure, but know in your heart that you're a woman, because first of all, I can see it, and second of all, the fact that you've never questioned it before, that you are or aren't a woman, is enough to prove that you are a woman. Yeah. Because, you know, like, if you thought you weren't, you would have questioned it sooner. Yeah. Like, you know, and I think there's this massive stigma in society, and I've had hate for it. Like, and I have, and it's horrible. And people say, oh, only women get periods, and first of all, that's not true, because not all women get periods, and some men get periods, and, you know, that's such a big thing. But in the same sense, like, I think it must have been literally the other week, it was exam season, I was stressed, me and my friends were all on the phone, we were all crying, like, we were all just panicking about these bloody exams. Yeah. And, you know, and we all just had this massive crash of, like, crisis. Like, It was the middle of the night, we were all on the phone, and I just started screaming at myself, saying, I'm incomplete, I'm not a woman. Oh my God, what is wrong with me? And they were like, Vic, shut up.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, that's not true.
Yeah.
Like, they were like, you know you don't feel like that. You're just feeling shit because of exams.
Yeah.
And I think every problem that I have in life is almost heightened by MRKH.
Yeah.
So my emotional awareness and my self-awareness is high. Like, I always kind of thought, and the word intersex is often used about MRKHs.
But that's not the case, is it? At all, because it's like a completely different thing.
I'm a woman.
Yeah.
I see myself as a woman, and I like nothing. MRKH doesn't change that.
Yeah.
Like, I thought it did for a time, but that was me just feeling insecure rather than me actually thinking and feeling it.
Yeah.
Like, I never looked in the mirror and thought, what if I'm a boy? Because I can see. First of all, I look like a woman. And I act like a woman, and, you know, my tastes and my interests are so typically like a woman.
And like you were saying before,
like,
you knew when people question their gender identity, there are lots of different things happening from when they're quite young, potentially. Yeah, and you just hadn't had that. It was all just, you're just questioning yourself because of your condition, and also because other people wouldn't mind their fucking business, if you mind my language.
That was the massive thing for me, was other people's opinions of me, because I've always been someone who needs validation. That's always been the way that I function, is I need people to say, you're doing the right thing, you're doing enough, like, we love you, you know. That's always been the way that that's my love language. So people to go against that and talk me down, I find really difficult. Like, that's just, a lot of people don't, and they can sort of, you know, push past it and be resilient, but that's the one thing for me is that I find difficult, is people saying to me, like, judging me because of MRKH. I can't help it. It's the way I am. I was born like it. I'm going to keep saying it, but I can't change it. It's not going away. So I can choose to live with it. I can like it or lump it, and they can like it or lump it.
Yeah. To wrap up, I'm going to ask you, like, about advice now. What advice, or what one bit of advice would you give to someone that was newly diagnosed?
Reach out.
Yeah.
Like, so it's so simple. Like, it's simple, but I get it's so hard. It's in that first message, but reach out, because then you start to build a community for yourself. Like, I reached out to LMA, and then I found Gemma, and then I don't know what happened after that, and I joined a group chat of other girls, and then I took a break for a while because I was focusing on other stuff, and then I found Ali, and I found my friend Charlie, and I started advocating. And once I built that little safety net for myself of MRKH community girls, and also of people around me, so teachers, friends, family, like, and eventually hospital support when I eventually got it, which took forever. But when all that stuff happens, you feel safe, and you need to do what you need to do to make yourself feel safe. And I think, like, reaching out for me and feeling like I had a home with these girls, and knowing that I'm not alone, that was the most important thing. So, you know, if you're newly diagnosed, reach out to me, reach out to anyone in the community. Like, there are so many of us out now, and proud of it, and sharing our stories in the way that we feel we need to share them. But I think and for parents as well, like, I've had parents message me loads, and actually, I think that's a really lovely thing for parents to do. Yeah. Is to want to find out more, but in the same sense, don't push your kid into finding out stuff that they don't want to know yet. Yeah. Like, don't push your kid into accepting treatment or into talking to me, for example. Like, I've had a mum message me and want to put her kid in touch with me, and I've said, of course I'll speak to your daughter if that's what you want to do, but she has to be ready. Yeah. Like, I think that's another thing for parents. Respect the MRKHer. Because as much as it feels like the parents living with it, they're not. Yeah. It's your daughter who is living with a diagnosis, and it's your daughter who needs your unconditional love and support, not pushy. Yeah. Like, there's such a fine line, because there's not letting them hide away and not letting them sort of crash and burn and struggle, but in the same sense, they are going to crash and burn and struggle because it is hard. And I think that's so important, is let them be sad. Yeah. Don't try and make them happy all the time, because it's not a happy thing to have to live with and to find out. But I think most importantly is just, you know, you're not alone, and reach out to one of us, because there's so many of us there just waiting to embrace you with open arms and say, come and talk to us, we're here for you. Yeah. That's why we advocate in the first place. Like, I think it's such a massive thing. Yeah, and I think I love that advice as well, because I think with parents, they just want to fix everything.
and they don't really know how necessarily. So I think that's amazing advice. And where would you suggest, would you say is the best, like, first port of call for support? Like, is there a particular site or Instagram or whatever they should go to?
So there are a few, and most of these are on Instagram actually. So I've just launched, shamelessly plugging this, but I've just launched a new initiative called MRKH Stars, and it's for newly diagnosed MRKHs. There's 4 of us as ambassadors who run the site, the Instagram page, and run the posts, write the posts, share the posts. All the messages go through me on the account, so it will be me you'll be talking to, but I can signpost you to the right way. You know, like it's a safe space for newly diagnosed MRKHs to feel safe, to feel accepted, to feel loved, to not feel forced into being bombarded with information, because that's the thing that often parents can do as well. Is throw information at your kid and be like, whoa, like, mum, dad, slow down. Like, I'm not ready for this yet. But I think it depends on the country you're in as well. So in America, there's Beautiful You. They're the MRKH Foundation in America. And then the British one is MRKH Connect. And they're the 2, I would say, biggest ones at the moment that are running, and the ones that everybody knows to reach out to. And then, like, there's MRKH Stars that I'm doing, which is new, but it's growing. And then Mind Over MRKH, which is LMA's little sister account. They're another one that's all based on MRKH and mental health. So if that's what you're looking for, then they're a good shout to go to. And obviously Vulva Womb, which is massive and probably one of the first ones that you'd find, because they're one of the bigger ones. But yeah, I'd say, like, all of those places, any of those are a really good starting point.
Brilliant. Well, thank you so much for joining me. You've said about MRKH Stars, and is that what it is on Instagram as well?
Yeah.
Perfect. So that's where people can find you and find out more, and people who are newly diagnosed can go and get advice, support, and everything else. I have absolutely loved every moment of speaking to you. This has been awesome, and I hope we get to speak to each other again about when you release your book in the future. No pressure. I'm not saying you have to write a book. I just feel like you're going to, and then when you're going to, I want to talk to you about it. Thank you so much, hon.
Thank you.
Thank you for listening to Speak On. Make sure you like, subscribe, and share with your friends, family, co-workers, strangers in the street. To find out more about us, including our upcoming events, head over to Instagram, instagram.com/speakon_. Bye!